All right, welcome again. Thank you for joining us. We will get started because it is already 3:30 and we have a lot of items or a lot of things we'd like to share with you in this hour. So thank you for joining us for session 4 of our learning series, Designing for Inclusive Literacy. Today's session will be around the topic of options. I know we're pretty familiar with Zoom by now, but just a reminder that we can use the chat box. So if you'd like to drop in who you are, what your role is, and where you're working now, that might be nice to make some connections across our participants. We can also, sorry if you're hearing some really loud sirens, it never fails right when you start talking that something happens. You can also use the chat box to ask or answer questions, share an idea, or perhaps post a link of a resource that you think the other participants might benefit from. And again, make sure if you're using the chat that you pay attention to who the message is going to. If you want it just to be to the presenters, you can do that. You can send messages directly to people or make sure it's for everyone. Here is the team. My name is Becky and I will be one of the facilitators today. Shamron, Elisa, and Elise will be on or part of our webinar as well. You will probably hear from them a little bit, but they will be kind of taking the chat box and sharing links and resources. And my co-facilitator today will be...
Hi, it'll be Wyatt, me. I'm coming over here to you from Santa Clara County. I am in San Jose, California, and I am implementing with CAST at the Santa Clara County Office of Education. Nice to see everybody today. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you, Wyatt. Right, so here are our goals for our session together. We will deepen understanding of inclusive literacy practices by examining the benefits of providing options for learners and exploring strategies for providing options to minimize barriers. Here's our agenda for our session together. We have already done our welcome and introduction. We will spend a little bit of time doing some context and framing. You will have the opportunity to organize your learning environment. Today we have a very special guest, Paulet, who will be sharing her story. Then we will spend some time diving into inclusive literacy by design, thinking about how to design options to minimize barriers. And then we will wrap up with reflection and feedback. During our session today, we will provide multiple options for engagement. There will be some collaborative options, and then as usual, there will always be an option to work independently. So here are a few of the documents that you might use to support your learning today. The links, you can directly click on them if you have the presentation opened, or they will be dropped in the chat. We have our home base document that will have links to all of the resources. It will also have links to this slide deck. We have an optional note-taking guide if that will support your learning. And then there are 2 discussion boards that we will be using. We have them based on, actually at this point, let's just all use the January to June discussion board. We had 2 just in case our numbers were larger, but let's just all use the first link, the January to June discussion board. So we're going to give you 1 minute to really open up those documents, get yourself ready to optimize your learning this afternoon. So think about how can your space better support your engagement? What is the best way for you to perceive the content? And what are your preferences today for sharing your thinking? We'll give you 1 minute to get yourself set up, and then we will jump into our learning together. Right. And one thing I forgot to mention, we do have a captioner with us. So if you need closed captions, you can choose that on the bottom of your menu. So thank you, Debbie, for being here and supporting us with that. So again, today's session will be on the topic of options. Our monthly learning series is planned around designing for inclusive literacy. We've already gone through our mindset, goal setting, and barriers workshops. So here we are on options. So thinking about, we wanted to start by framing our learning together with a common definition or a working definition of inclusive literacy. So when we think about inclusion, we think about the kind of the general definition as it being the process of involving or including all people in an environment, regardless of their differences. But our team, as we work together, we also like to add on and extend that to include some of the social aspects, some of the heart pieces around inclusion, where it's not just the process of including everyone. We want to make sure that everyone feels that they belong, that they're valued and respected. And then thinking about our definition of literacy, so kind of our foundational definition, ability to produce, interpret, and understand language. But as we continue our work together, we want to extend that also to thinking about questioning, critiquing that text, the media, whatever we're looking at, and then also thinking about the social context of literacy. So setting up our context for today, looking back very quickly over the topics we've already covered. So in September, we really talked about mindset and how we can shift and frame our language to really support a UDL or an inclusive literacy mindset. Then in October, we continued our work together, really thinking about what are universally designed goals and how can we design our goals to ensure that they're universally designed and supportive of all learners. Last month, we spent some time anticipating barriers, and we looked specifically at 4 different areas or 4 buckets. Sorry. That's okay. 4 buckets that we looked at when we're thinking about a learning experience or a lesson design. So we looked at how can we anticipate barriers in materials. How can we anticipate barriers that might be a part of the methods or how the content is being delivered? How can we anticipate barriers in assessment? So how might there be barriers in the way that we're asking learners to demonstrate their learning? And then lastly, thinking about barriers in the environment, really that climate and culture piece. How is it being supportive of learning? And today we will be moving on from anticipating barriers to really thinking about, now that we know what barriers might be in the design, how can we design options to minimize those barriers? So we're going to be continuing that work around the inclusive literacy by design. So kind of following this process where we're starting with goals. Then as we move on from our goals and we start doing the lesson or learning design, anticipating those barriers. And then lastly, designing options to minimize those barriers. And that will be where we spend our time today. But like I mentioned at the beginning, we have a very special guest today. Her name is Paulet. Paulet will be sharing her experience as a learner and how she was provided options as a learner, and kind of her experience with that. So as we're listening to Paulet, we're going to ask you to think about kind of the guiding question. How did Paulet's teachers provide options in the following areas? So we're going to look at those 4 buckets, those 4 areas of a learning experience: materials, methods, assessment, environment, and think about how did Paulet's teachers provide options in these areas? And you can record your thinking on our home base document or on your own notes if you prefer that. So I am going to pass it to Wyatt and Paulet.
All right, friends. Hello, hello. So Paulet Zavala, we are going to welcome her to the scene in just a moment. She's currently a freshman studying at the University of Berkeley. She is studying business. I set on being an entrepreneur, and trust me, anything this girl sets her eyes on, she does, and she does it exceedingly well. We're so grateful to you, Paulette, for your time and your extreme effort that you really put in, very thoughtful in bringing your experience and your perspective to how options have helped you to become a stronger expert learner as you've progressed through our systems here in California. So Paulette is my former student. I had her as a 5th and 6th grade student. Sorry, you were stuck with me twice, honey. Ugh. Where I got to serve in the Alum Rock School District in the east side of San Jose, some of the most magical years of my life. So thank you, Paulette. I just want to remind everyone our guiding question before she begins is how and where does Paulette's story hit upon those buckets that we just went over? Materials, methods, assessment, and environment. So she's going to share her perspective. And Paulette, you ready to go, sweetie?
Yes.
All right, friend.
Hello, everyone. My name is Paulette Zavala. Sorry. As she has mentioned, I am a student at Berkeley, and I'm super excited to be there, and I'm super excited to be here with you guys. This is a great opportunity. So basically, as a student, I have always enjoyed being in school. It has always been a way for me to stay entertained and just, I know that school is something that's going to help me succeed in life. So I've always stuck to it and did the best I could in everything that I was confronted with. And so a lot of the things that helped me throughout the sorry, a lot of things that helped me throughout being in the classroom was the environment that there was, such as some teachers in my high school. My high school was somewhere that it felt more like family. It wasn't, we were very close. Everyone was very close. Everyone was super nice. Principal was always there for us. The teachers were always very supportive. Um, one of my teachers that I really appreciated, he had a classroom where he had food for us, snacks, in order to help us learn better, because we did have early classes, as of course. One of my earliest class I had was at 7:20 in the morning. So it was super hard for me to wake up in the morning and have a meal and like make it to class on time. So it was super helpful to know that I could just stop by his class and grab a snack and water if I needed to, and just head to my class, and I was able to eat in the classroom, which was super helpful to me because I was able to function better and learn better knowing that I wasn't hungry. Another thing that also helped me with that class is that he provided materials for us, which was super helpful because sometimes when we're in a rush, we can forget our pencils, our paper, etc. So it was super, super helpful to know that we could just stop by as well, grab a piece of paper or a pencil, anything. And so that really helped me a lot. Something also that helped me as a freshman when I was in high school is that it was kind of hard to like adapt to the environment just because it was super new. I went to a middle school that was a K-8, so I never really knew how it was growing up, like the difference between schools. So going to high school was like a very big change for me. And what I liked about them was that most of the teachers had a lot of posters around the room. And these posters, they had like rappers or inspirational people. Even White herself, she had pictures of Tupac and Gandhi. And so I felt super comfortable in that class because I knew that this teacher had the same interests as us in a way. So I felt more connected to her right off the bat, just with having that. So I think that's also super helpful. Um, some of the barriers that I had when I was in school was, let's go for example with my English classes. I've never been someone who really likes to read nonfiction, especially as a younger student. It's been really hard and complicated. I think that something that helped me was when I had a teacher who allowed 4 different genres of books in one of the classrooms. So we were able to go ahead and pick what book we liked to read. And I remember one of the books that I read, I can't remember the name exactly, but I believe it was something like I Am Not Your Mexican Daughter. And that was something that I really related to because I am Mexican, of course. And that book basically talks about how the Mexican culture is and tradition and stereotypes and how the household is ran. And the daughter, however, she didn't feel a connection towards her household because she didn't agree with a lot of the stuff that was going on. And that's kind of something that I relate to. So I was able to finish that book in 2-3 days, um, versus if I would have gotten like a history book, or something about like the anatomy of animals, I would have really struggled to get through it. And it would have taken me a lot of time to finish it. And by the time it was time to write our essays, it was really easy for me to write my essay because I knew exactly what I wanted to say, because I really related to this book and I made a lot of connections with it. So I think that's also something that helps when it comes to options, being able to give different types of genres of books in order to have the students know what they want to learn. And honestly, there was this one person in my class who did not like reading. And this option helped this person learn that it's not that he doesn't like reading, it's the fact that he's never read a book that was interesting to him. So that helped him see that there's so much to read, and he started to enjoy reading. Like, he finished the book really fast as well. So that also really helps. It encourages students to see their own potential and want to succeed and know that, hey, we can do it too. Like, we're not dumb or we don't know how to succeed in school. We just haven't found the right stuff to do in school that pushes them to want to learn. Another thing that I did do in college, actually, I have an African American studies class. And for my final, I thought that college was going to be hard because I always thought it was going to be like write 30-page essays and just do that, and don't get any other options. So I was really going to struggle with that. I was like, I can't write 30 pages and turn it in a week. Like, that's kind of impossible. So I was like, I didn't know what to do, and I was nervous for finals. But then for this class, we were actually offered to use just some of the terms that were in the class, in the course. And they just told us, like, you guys can do a presentation, a debate, you guys can do a skit, anything of your choice. And that really relieved me, and it helped me because I was like, okay, well, I don't have to worry about having to do like just an essay or just read a million pages. Like, I could do what I wanted. And we got to pick our groups and we got to pick our topics as well, as long as we could tie the topic back to the original main idea of the course. So that was really easy, and thankfully I did get a very good grade on it. And I think choice has a lot to do with it because I was able to pick what I wanted to do and do it how I wanted to do it. And that helped me like not procrastinate and just get it done. Another thing was I had this class in high school called Avid, where they teach you about college and they try to get you to go ahead and start thinking about college, because a lot of kids in the East Side, they don't really see college as like something that they want to do, or a path. They think it's easier to just join gangs or just go the easy route instead of going ahead and just taking the hard route and working hard, because that's just what we've been taught. It's just the culture around this community. And so this one teacher, I thought it was really cool that he made us do this project in that class, which was design our own college dorm in a shoebox. And we could use like any materials there was in the classroom. It didn't have to be like super perfect and like expensive. And I think that really helped a lot of students and inspired them, because it gave them a sense of hope, and like it made it realistic, and like they could look at the box and like the dorm that they decorated however they wanted, and they could be like, hey, like this is something that I could actually do in real life. Like, I don't have to just have it in the shoebox. I could actually live in this and actually persevere. And I think that helped because a lot of people ended up participating, which a lot of people don't. But for this one, people were able to participate, and they actually did a really cool job. Like, the teacher has an Instagram page where he shows off like everyone's work and all the projects he has, and he follows everyone in the school, follows him in this Instagram page. He has a lot of followers, like old students, former students, myself included, teachers. And he just posts all the work he does, his classrooms, And this teacher is just someone that I really look up to because he was everyone loves this teacher at school because he gives so many options, and he's a really good, he knows how to teach, and he knows how to make sure that the students are comfortable and they have a safe space in school. Sorry, I'm looking at my notes over here. For history final also, we were able to do group projects, group essays, individual essays, presentations, and even TikToks. And I think that's really important because a lot of students like to be on their phone. And he did notice that because most of the teachers in my high school, they didn't really have like a phone policy. As long as you finished your work, you were free to use your phone. And they do notice that TikTok was like a big thing. So he decided to tie, something that entertains students or kids on their free time onto school. And a lot of people did end up doing the TikToks, and they were super hilarious. And they made the class go by super fast as well, which is also another point about choices. It makes people want to do their work, so everything goes by faster for them. The day doesn't feel like dreadful for them. And I think that's something that we have to do, because school can be kind of hard, but if you're given the right choices and you're given options, I think it helps you get through the day much faster. And next thing you know, it's seventh period and you're done and you're ready to go home. And people just want to come back to school. Like a lot of people, I remember kids at my school, they wouldn't want to miss school at all. Like they did not want to miss because they wanted to come back because they had a fun time. They enjoyed being there. Something else that was offered at my school was we had lounges. I remember like in the classrooms, if you didn't feel like participating with the class or doing your work in class because you're going through something, or you just need a safe, quiet space, they did have these rooms where there was couches, microwaves, snacks, and tables, and then you could just go in there and work on your stuff. The teacher would come here and there to make sure you were working, and then you could just work there and then stay there for the rest of the period, and then go ahead and go on to your break after that. And I think that's really cool as well, because a lot of things happen to a lot of people and no one knows their struggles or what they're going through behind closed doors. So I think it's very important for students to feel like they can go ahead and they can go to school, but they're not going to be forced to do what everyone else is doing if they don't feel like they can function in that type of environment. So having those lounges was really, really helpful, because sometimes, or things just even happen at school, like just drama, drama happens and you just don't want to be in a classroom. And I think this really helps because it gives you a quiet place to just do your work, mind your business, and just get stuff done. And it helps someone be more productive. At least for me, I love doing independent stuff. So I really enjoyed going to those lounges. Yeah. And for my final for English class this semester, actually, I turned it in like last week. It was a Padlet. And that was super fun because it took me like 5 minutes to turn it in. It was not hard. And it was super engaging, and it was really fun because it gave you different options about how to do so we had to do essays throughout the year. And then these essays, we all put them together in a portfolio, but instead of like a paper one, we did a Padlet. And so it gave you like different formats on how to do it. And then it gave you like cool captions and backgrounds and colors. And it was really cool. I really enjoyed that. And it was easy to do because it was super engaging.
Hey, Paulette, do you mind if we ask you a couple things?
Oh, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Are you sure? No, don't be sorry. We could listen to you forever and a day, I'm sure. I don't know about anyone else, but I feel like I just learned 7,000 things that I should have been doing when I had a classroom. So thanks for that, Paulette. What, right, friends? We're always learning, and we're like, oh, if I could go back. So is anybody out there in our audience land wanting to ask anything specific? Please just jump on, turn on your microphone, or throw it in the chat. We can read it out for you.
Paulette, I'm curious, like how your teachers, when they were delivering their lessons, like in what ways did they do that?
I'm gonna ask the same thing, Kim.
Yeah, so they would do it interactive. So some teachers, they would do, so for practicing tests, we would use Kahoot, and you would do it as a classroom. When it came to doing lectures, I remember this one teacher, she always had a packet at the beginning of class, and she would go through the lectures, and then we would have to fill in the blanks, and it was interactive, which I think is a way that's like super helpful, because she would read off the board, and then she would like show us videos, images, and we had to go ahead and follow along with the packet. And I think that was super helpful because it helped one stay engaged, because we had to fill it out, and then we could use those at the end to take tests. And they also used, I remember in one of my classes, actually like a week ago, no, I'm lying, not a week ago, but like during the month, we had presentations, and one of the students actually was able to get the presentation to be on our computers while they were presenting. So I think that was also super engaging, because we could see it on our own screen. And they also had like activities built into the presentation in order to keep people engaged. Yeah.
Wow, awesome answer. Is there anybody else that has another question? I have one for you, Paulette. As you were talking, I was thinking about like the real content heavy, like I was just thinking about, you just took a math assessment today, calculus, something that I never touched, and thank goodness I didn't try. Thinking about like math and science and history, what alternative ways, what options did you ever see in class other than here's a textbook, read it, learn that way?
Yeah, so for math, we did projects. So we had like different pieces to a puzzle. And in order to find the puzzle pieces, we needed to solve the equations. And then we were able to go ahead and piece the puzzle after, and it was like a cool shape. And then we could color it and design it or whatever. For science, I think something that helped me personally was having labs or just hands-on experiments. Interactive lectures as well, slides. I think that was super helpful for me, because it allowed me to stay engaged. Science is not something that I really enjoy, so having labs, being hands-on, working with other people, and not just being given worksheets is something that really, really helped me stay engaged and actually learn the topics.
I have one more question. Paula, a question we get a lot is, well, how do teachers, assess or grade, projects when they're so different? So did your teachers make it really clear what was it a rubric that they used? How did you know what it was that they were looking for?
Yeah, so they gave us rubrics with what they expected. So it would be like, I can't really remember, but for example, just like for the shoebox, the college dorm shoebox, it's just make sure it's in a shoebox, make sure there's no like profanity and nothing inappropriate in it. It was very like lenient, just as long as you weren't breaking any rules and just did it your own. That was how they did it. For grading, I always had the same grading, like A through F. I did have one teacher who didn't believe in D's, so she would just go from C straight to F. Yeah, so it's kind of hard there. But yeah, for grading, it just works. It's basically when you do projects and stuff like that, it's based on creativity and just making sure you have some content. You're covering content of the course, but they would pretty much just let us do it however we felt like it was more comfortable for us to do, as long as it tied back to the topic of the class.
Amazing. Paulette, we just grabbed so much information from you. It's phenomenal. So this was our guiding question. And when we look at what we just gathered from you, friend, ba-boom. Nice work, sweetheart.
Thank you.
And
Yes,
as
thank you,
always,
Paulette. That's
Anything else that comes up to anybody as we're moving forward that we missed, please jump back on and add to it. Go ahead, Becky. Didn't mean to talk over you.
No, I'm sorry. I jumped in. I just wanted to thank Paulette for sharing your experience. It's so great to hear the learner experience. We often talk about, what we can do or what we should be doing, but it's so nice to have that learner experience and see really the benefits of the intentional design and the benefits of providing options to our learners. So thank you, Paulette.
Thank you guys. Sorry. I appreciate you guys having me and being able to help you guys, because I do have a lot of little ones, little cousins, and I know that you guys will be able to teach them and help them be successful and feel inspired to want to continue school, because it's hard. Some people just don't want to do it, but you guys have the power and you guys can do it.
Thank you, Paulette. All right, so we're going to take a few minutes to do a little bit of reflecting around and some possible discussion around Paulette's experience. So we have a couple of questions just thinking about what are the impact, the why behind options. So thinking about, here's some guiding questions. How did providing options support Paulette's development as an expert learner? So how did Paulette develop her own learning style? How did she learn how to be a learner from the options that were provided to her? That's what we mean by expert learners, really knowing how to learn. And then how did providing options minimize barriers to her learning or her classmates' learning? She did share some examples from some other students. You can document your answers on the discussion board, the January to June, it's on the second page. And then we're going to have some options for engagement. So we'll have, these are our new breakout rooms. So bear with me as I explain our new names. So we're going to have a couple of, or one study hall breakout room. And that's if you want to just go and be in a quiet space, filling out the document on your own or taking notes in your own notebook, just a little bit of quiet reflection time. That's the study hall breakout room. If you would like to go to the counselor's office, Shamron, our CECL director, will be in there to answer any questions you may have or just to have a discussion together. And then we will have, I think, 2 teachers' lounges, which is where if you would like to go and discuss or process with other participants these guiding questions, then you can join those breakout rooms. So again, we'll keep this screen up. So again, study hall is an independent, quiet place if you just want to go and do your own reflection. Counselor's office, a Q&A with a CECL member, which will be Shamron. And then teacher's lounge will be where if you'd like to gather to discuss and process with other participants.
Becky, are we doing 10 minutes total?
You know what? We're a little, maybe let's start with 7 minutes. We're a little bit behind, but we felt that Paulette's experience was definitely worth the time. So thank you, Elisa, for asking.
No
that.
worries. Okay, so
We'll
we'll do
revise
6
that.
minutes, total of 7.
Yeah, perfect. Thank
Okay,
you.
here we go. I think it's funny we didn't put principal's office.
I know we were trying. We weren't sure if that would give anyone anxiety or not. We were.
We discussed it. We discussed it.
As former principals offend
Yes,
somebody.
yeah.
There's a few in the room. There's a few.
On the breakout rooms, you'll see the list of participants. If you scroll down to the bottom, that's how you can manually join one of the specific rooms. If you're unable to join, put in the chat box which one you would like to go to, and we will push you in a nice way into one of those breakout rooms. Welcome back. Thank you for participating in whether it was an independent breakout room or a collaborative breakout room. Hopefully you're enjoying our options for engagement. We're dabbling with new ways to make sure that we are meeting the needs of everyone. So just wanted to kind of wrap up the why behind options with some statements around the power of options. So thinking about options minimize barriers and give learners choice, which was definitely evident in Paulette's experience. Choice builds learners' agency. and agency breeds expert learning. So again, when we're thinking about expert learning, really thinking about knowing how to learn, knowing what you need as a learner, knowing how to make plans, set goals, and accomplish those plans. So which we did hear from Paulette, how options helped build her agency as a learner. So again, going back to the idea of inclusive literacy by design, kind of thinking about this process of designing. So we started a few sessions ago by thinking about the importance of beginning with clear, rigorous goals. Last webinar, we talked about now that we have that goal and we're really thinking about how are we designing this learning experience and thinking about what barriers might come into play across those 4 areas in this learning experience. And now we really want to get a little bit deeper in thinking about how can we design options to minimize those barriers, thinking specifically about those barriers we anticipated, what options might reduce those barriers for our learners. So we're going to take a couple of minutes to think about, again, this process, and we have a template that we will be working off of in just a minute, but thinking about, again, starting with our learning goal and then going through those 4 areas, those 4 buckets: materials, methods, assessment, environment, and starting with that anticipation of barriers, and then thinking about specifically which options might I implement to reduce those barriers. So last time we were together, we went through the anticipating barriers process. So we're going to go back to that same example, and Wyatt is going to walk us through how we can use those anticipated barriers as a way to design our options to minimize those barriers.
All right, so like Becky mentioned, we're going to be diving deep with sample goals to unpacking each one of those 4 buckets. We pulled out just one of those buckets in an example here. So our sample goal reads as: the learner will analyze cause and effect relationships within the rock cycle that connect to climate change disasters in our area. So the one bucket that we're pulling out to unpack together right now is the methods. So how is the content being delivered? We don't know much from just having the learning goal. It's not a whole lesson plan, of course, but again, anticipated barriers, and we may or may not be right, but in our mind's eye, what might we have done or seen in order for this material to be delivered? And the anticipated barriers that we thought of in this learning goal might be background knowledge. We're not sure how much the students have been given on this topic. And I know that I knew 0 about this topic personally before I had to teach it. So there's an example. Relevance to the topic, right? We were discussing in a couple webinars prior how we can make this relevant to students by it being about their area, but really bringing in more specifics might help. And the delivery method, we're not really sure. Was it all lecture style? Was it, here's the textbook, let's read it together? Was it independent textbook reading? We're not sure. So that may have been a barrier. So moving on to the next slide, where we filled out some potential options that we might offer to minimize these barriers. So due to the background knowledge issue, we might need to connect to prior learning and do some sort of needs assessment and find out from the students what it is that they do know about this topic before we dive in. We might need to connect to real life experiences, real specifics in their area that we could connect to, that they've heard about in the news, read about in the paper. Do people read papers anymore? Discussion, group talk, reflection time, how they're going to be processing this. So really diving deep into having options for them to process the information. So on the next slide, we have a link for you to this document, and you're going to have different goals that you can dive in and work on. So we have a language arts goal, we have a math goal, we have a science goal, we have a history goal. Is that all that we did, Becky? I think so. Oh, we did 3. Okay, there are only 3 of those 4 that I just named.
Yeah.
And The link to that doc is in the
It's in the
notes
chat.
box. It's in the chat. It is also linked on the slide deck. And so again, you can choose the room that you would like to go and process in. So if we can pop up those options again.
And so our new option for our rooms, we do have a lab room. This will be the room if you would like to go through the process with the ELA goal or the math goal or the science goal. We will have an ELA lab, a math lab, or a science lab as a choice if you want to work on that specific goal with some of the other participants. And then we will still have teacher's lounge, counselor's office, and study hall for you. There is an independent template. It will ask you to make a forced copy if you have your own learning goal that you would like to work on and go through this process independently as well.
How long again, ladies?
Let's do, it's 4:18, 8 minutes.
Yep,
8.
8 minutes sounds great. And again, if you want to throw in the chat where you'd like to be sent to, or just turn on your microphone and say your name and where you'd like to go, we can send you there too.
All right, welcome back, friends. I'm looking at the collaborative document. I see some really awesome options on the ELA learning goal page. So if you weren't in that group, these documents will be available to you. So take a few minutes at your leisure to go back and kind of peruse some of the work that group did, because there's some really, really good ideas for minimizing the barriers on that document. As we wrap up our time, our time together, we want to end with this quote. We are much more likely to persevere when we know our goal and are empowered to choose what we create to reach it. So this is a quote by Katie Novak. So thinking ahead, we just are concluding our options webinar next month in December. We will be, it is December now. And next month in January, we will be focusing on expert learning. We mentioned the term expert learning a little bit today. So if that's something that piqued your interest, please be sure to register for the January webinar. Here is a link to register for the webinar. And then if you could fill out our feedback form. We really appreciate your feedback and we really take it to heart and use it as we design our future webinars. I think both of those should also be in the chat. And then if you would like to know more about CAST or Universal Design for Learning, here are some additional resources around CAST. So thank you so much for being a part of our webinar. Is Paulette still on here? I want to thank Paulette and shout out to Paulette for sharing her experience. It was awesome. So thank you, everyone. Happy holidays and winter break. Enjoy your time off, everyone. Disconnect and relax.